Kendrick Johnson was a 17-year-old boy whose life ended in a way that remains one of the most debated cases in Georgia's history. His story is not just an unresolved mystery, it is a complex web of facts, grief, and a decade of controversy. Today, we look at the evidence. On January 11, 2013, Kendrick was found dead inside a rolled-up wrestling mat in the gym of Lowndes High School. He was in an inverted position, head first and upside down. While a 4-month investigation ruled it an accident, his parents maintain to this day that it was a homicide. LHS has 2 gymnasiums. In the corner of the old gym, several large wrestling mats were in permanent storage. Standing 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide, these mats were often used by students like Kendrick as unofficial storage lockers to avoid paying fees for school lockers. During the Christmas break, many more mats were added to the collection. This changed the landscape of the storage area. Kendrick shared a pair of shoes with another student, and on this particular day, the mat where those shoes were kept was now buried behind a wall of new mats. At 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 10th, surveillance cameras captured Kendrick walking into the gym alone. No one followed him. He was simply retrieving those shared shoes. When he failed to appear at his next class, a weightlifting session, he was marked absent for the first time. Kendrick was expected home after a freshman basketball game that evening. When he failed to arrive, the worry turned into action. At midnight, his mother reported him missing, starting a search that would eventually lead the entire community back to the school gym. On the morning of Friday, January 11th, Jackie went to the school to print missing person flyers. Around 10:30, female students sitting on the mats noticed socks sticking out of one of the upright rolls. Thinking it was a joke, a student climbed the bleachers to look inside. The reality was horrific. With a teacher's help, they knocked over the mat. The presence of blood and the smell of decomposition confirmed that Kendrick was gone. The school went into an immediate lockdown as the news reached his mother that a body had been found. Investigators found Kendrick had been dead in that inverted position for 21 hours. 2 pairs of shoes were found. 1 pair he had been wearing were on top of him. The pair he was retrieving were on the floor underneath him, near his head. There was no blood on his school folder. The only new blood was found inside the mat. Bloody tissues found in a girl's bathroom were tested and found to be female DNA from a separate practice injury. The blood from Kendrick had only dripped onto the floor beneath him, suggesting he didn't bleed until he was inside the mat. The family immediately sought an independent investigation, bringing in the Valdosta SCLC and the NAACP. Led by Lee Touchton, these organisations initially supported the family's quest for answers, helping to organise rallies and demand transparency from the school board. By April 2013, the tension led to civil disobedience. Family members blocked the courthouse entrance and were arrested. Reverend Rose even put up his home as collateral for Jackie's bond, illustrating the deep community divide over the investigation's initial accident ruling. A May fundraising rally hosted Al Sharpton, raising over $5,000 intended for a reward. However, the reward was never set up by the family. Eventually, a local businessman provided a $10,000 check, but only on the condition of a 90-day deadline for information. In June, the body was exhumed for a second autopsy. It was famously discovered that Kendrick's organs were missing, replaced with newspaper. While disturbing to the public, the funeral home broke no laws, as this was once a standard, if old-fashioned, practice in the industry. Private pathologist Dr. William Anderson disputes the original findings. He cited a tiny 2 to 3 centimetre bruise on the neck as proof of blunt force trauma. However, Anderson never claimed Kendrick was beaten. That claim was pushed by the family despite no broken bones or internal bleeding. It is important to note that the facial injuries often cited as evidence of a beating were attributed by medical experts to skin slippage, a natural result of being in an inverted position for nearly a day. This distinction between trauma and natural decomposition remains a point of deep conflict. The DOJ agreed to investigate in October, but internally, the SCLC and Lee Touchton reached the same conclusion as the original investigation. It was a tragic accident. This alienated the Johnsons, who wanted the organisations to publicly name the Bell brothers as the killers. The family focused their accusations on Brian and Brandon Bell. However, at the exact time Kendrick entered the gym, Brian was in a classroom surrounded by dozens of witnesses and a teacher. Surveillance video and classmates confirmed he was nowhere near Kendrick. Brandon Bell's alibi was even more ironclad. He was on a bus travelling to a wrestling tournament in Macon. Despite claims of a falsified log, teammates, rival teams, and tournament weigh-in records all placed him miles away from Valdosta throughout the afternoon. The family claimed the body was stored in a heated drawer to destroy evidence, but investigators verified that the lab had strict alarms and backup generators to maintain the correct, cool temperature. The claims of purposeful heat were found to have no basis in the lab's reality. During rallies, a phantom suspect was often cited, the sheriff's son. But Sheriff Prine did not even have a son or grandson at Lowndes High School. This myth was a powerful piece of misinformation that fueled the conspiracy, despite being easily disproven. Claims of edited surveillance video also spread. In truth, privacy laws initially prevented the public release of the tapes. It was the school board and sheriff's office, not the family's legal team, who finally filed the motion to release the footage publicly for all to see. The Johnsons eventually burned many bridges, posting the addresses of innocent people on Facebook and accusing community members without evidence. These actions alienated the very organizations that had initially helped them, as the facts of the alibis became undeniable. What likely happened was a tragic accident of physics. Reaching down into a narrow 6-foot-tall mat, Kendrick likely lost his grip. Once upside down, he was unable to bend his elbows to lift himself out. In a panic, he kicked off his shoes, only wedging himself deeper. Kendrick Johnson's death was a freak, heartbreaking accident. He reached for a shoe and became trapped in a place he couldn't escape. It is a tragedy that doesn't need a conspiracy to be devastating. May the truth finally bring peace to his memory.